it's easy. It's easy because all you would be doing is telling the truth. You a 6'6" black man. Well, that's why we saying then say it now. Say it now.
Say it now. I'm black and I'm proud.
Come on.
Hollywood, where glamour hides darkness, is shaking. On Monday, June 9th, 2025, Sean Diddy Combs' preliminary hearing on charges of racketeering, human trafficking, and drug trafficking began, threatening to topple his empire. In court, the two central figures, Monique and Tyler Perry, have captured all the attention. Monique, with her quiet determination, carries the burden of years of industry ostracism and unspeakable injustices. She is a living witness to a past she believes has been hidden. Tyler Perry, the media mogul, sits silently, but his tense expression betrays a haunting past. Each accusation against Diddy brings back memories of lavish parties and secret deals Perry has witnessed or participated in. He chose silence to build his empire, and now the cost is clear. As the first witness describes the culture of fear at Diddy's parties, Perry breaks out in a cold sweat. He remembers similar scenes, decisions made to turn away from the truth. Monique sees the panic in Perry's eyes, and despite their long feud, she feels a deep sense of vindication, realizing that Perry is also a victim of the system. On Thursday, June 12, 2025, a surprise witness breaks Perry down, describing seeing him at a Bad Diddy party in early 2006, and seeing Perry crying hysterically as he leaves in the early hours of March 15, 2006. This confirms the rumors, leaving Perry with a full-blown fear. Finally, on Monday, June 16, 2025, the court decided to indict Diddy. Perry escaped criminal charges but carried the burden of truth in silence. Monique, meanwhile, stood firm as a symbol of resilience, vowing to continue fighting for justice, not just for herself, but for all those who have been hurt by Hollywood's dark secrets. As the proceedings continued into Tuesday, June 10, 2025, at 9:30 a.m. PST, the prosecution began to peel back layers of time, venturing into the murky waters of Diddy's past. They presented evidence not just of recent alleged crimes, but of a long-standing pattern of behavior. This was where the narrative shifted, where the whispers transformed into echoes of a terrifying past, a past deeply intertwined with both Monique and Tyler Perry. Valerie Chen's voice, steady and relentless, cut through the tension. She projected images of grand parties from years prior, glittering events attended by the biggest names in music, film, and fashion. These weren't merely celebrations, Chen stated, her voice dropping to a somber tone. But we contend, hunting grounds, stages for exploitation, where young, aspiring artists were lured into a predatory web. Monique felt a chill run down her spine as she saw those images. The glamour on screen mocked the bitter taste in her mouth. She recalled her warnings, the words she had tried to speak about the dark corners of this industry, about the need to stand firm against pressure. She had once been a bright star, an Oscar winner, but then quickly sidelined. They talk about celebration, Monique murmured to herself, just loud enough for only she to hear the tremor in her own voice. But I saw what happened to those who wouldn't bow. They want you silent. They want you gone. And if you don't play their game, they make sure you disappear. Her eyes flickered towards Tyler Perry, a silent challenge in their depths. The court then heard testimony from security personnel, former assistants, and even a retired law enforcement officer who recounted instances of suspicious activity, hushed-up incidents, and a pervasive atmosphere of intimidation surrounding Combs. One former security guard, his face a roadmap of regret, described seeing young women visibly distressed, being escorted from Diddy's properties under the guise of discretion. I saw things, the guard mumbled, his voice raspy with long-held secrets. Things that made my stomach turn. Girls, young, scared, but you didn't ask questions. Mind your own business, they'd say. Not if you wanted to keep your job or your life. A collective gasp swept through the gallery. Diddy, for the first time, visibly flinched. He stared straight ahead, a muscle twitching in his jaw as if trying to chew back the rising tide of accusations. Tyler Perry stared into space, memories of lavish parties, promising invitations, now taking on a different, horrifying hue. He had been there, witnessed questionable scenes, but he had closed his eyes. He had convinced himself it was part of the industry, that he needed to look away to survive, to build his empire. He recalled a specific conversation with a close friend around mid-2007 after a particularly notorious Diddy party. "Man, that was wild," Perry had said, attempting a laugh that didn't quite reach his eyes. His friend, an older, more cynical industry veteran, had leaned in. "You know, T, sometimes you have to walk down dirty roads to get where you're going. Gotta play the game or you're out. Simple as that." Perry had nodded, trying to push away the discomfort, the nausea rising in his gut. "Yeah, I get it. Just a lot to take in." He had chosen that path, that convenient blindness, and now it was haunting him, each new piece of testimony a fresh stab of guilt. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, acutely aware of Monique's unwavering gaze from across the room. It felt like she could see right through his carefully constructed facade. The courtroom drama intensified on Wednesday, June 11, 2025, at 11:00 a.m. PST, when the prosecution turned its attention to specific alleged incidents, some of which had been whispered about for years but never officially substantiated. The air crackled with a palpable tension, a quiet hum of expectation rippling through the gallery. Valerie Chen introduced a series of communications, encrypted messages, partially recovered emails, and even blurry photographs that painted a grim picture. The focus shifted to an alleged incident from late 2005, a period when Tyler Perry was rapidly ascending as a Hollywood force, and Monique was at the peak of her comedic prowess. "We will now present evidence concerning a private event," Chen announced, her voice deliberate and chillingly calm. "Held at a secluded estate in the Hollywood Hills, attended by a select group of high-profile individuals, including, we allege, Mr. Perry and Mr. Combs." The prosecution brought forth a witness, a former event planner who, under a grant of immunity, recounted details of a highly unusual and disturbing gathering. The planner described a frantic call from Diddy's team, demanding absolute secrecy, no phones, and a specific guest list that seemed designed to bring together individuals with significant industry power. "I remember," the planner testified, their voice trembling but firm, "a palpable tension. A sense of unease that wasn't typical for a celebrity party. People seemed subdued, even frightened, and Mr. Combs was in a different mood. Not his usual jovial self. There was a coldness about him." The courtroom held its breath. Monique, with a grim expression, nodded subtly. She'd heard similar stories, hushed warnings from friends who had disappeared from the industry, swallowed by its hidden mechanisms. So it was true then, she thought, her jaw tightening. All of it. Chen then displayed a blurry photograph allegedly taken surreptitiously by a staff member. It showed a dimly lit room, figures discernible but indistinct. "We believe this image," Chen stated, "depicts a moment during which coercive acts were taking place." Suddenly, Arthur Jenkins, Diddy's lawyer, erupted. "Objection, Your Honor! Speculation! This is a blurry, unverified image, pure conjecture designed to inflame." Judge Vance considered the objection, her gaze unwavering. "Overruled. The prosecution is presenting what they believe to be relevant context. The weight of the evidence is for the jury to decide." The prosecutor then pivoted, bringing up the long-standing feud between Monique and Tyler Perry. Ms. Monique, Chen stated, her voice resonating with an undercurrent of purpose, has publicly accused Mr. Perry and others of blackballing her for refusing to conform to industry demands. While not directly related to the charges against Mr. Combs, this animosity, this power dynamic, becomes relevant in understanding the climate within certain Hollywood circles. Tyler Perry flinched, a look of outright panic flashing across his face. He knew this was the moment his past with Monique would be dissected in public, not by his own carefully crafted narrative, but by the cold, unforgiving lens of the law. Whispers began to build in the gallery, a crescendo of speculation. Had he, the seemingly benevolent mogul, been entangled in something far darker? Was his carefully constructed image about to shatter? Monique looked directly at Tyler Perry. Her gaze held no anger or malice, but a profound disappointment that cut deeper than any rage. She had fought alone for years, enduring insults and losses, her career stagnating while others soared. She had always believed that Tyler Perry, a fellow Black artist who spoke so often of upliftment and community, should have stood by her. Instead, he had chosen silence, and she alleged, was even complicit in her blacklisting. His silence for Monique was a betrayal even more painful than a direct attack. He chose them over us, Monique thought, her eyes burning into Perry's averted face. He chose the machine. He chose the power. On Thursday, June 12, 2025, at 10:30 a.m. PST, the proceedings took a shocking turn. The prosecution called a surprise witness, a former production assistant who had worked closely with both Tyler Perry and Diddy. Granted full immunity, the witness began, their voice gaining strength. "I witnessed things. The truth, it needs to come out." The witness described a specific celebration in early 2006 at one of Diddy's lavish homes. The atmosphere, initially festive, quickly devolved. They detailed seeing Tyler Perry present, and later, a young woman, visibly distressed, was escorted into a private area with Diddy. "Mr. Perry was there," the witness stated clearly. "He was in the main living area. He was certainly aware of the atmosphere. It felt wrong. And later, when I saw the same young woman, she was crying. She looked traumatized, terrified." The gallery gasped and journalists scrambled. Tyler Perry's controlled composure crumbled. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he bowed his head, a low, guttural sound escaping his lips. The viral rumor of Tyler Perry cries in panic as Monique caught him with Diddy in the dirtiest party suddenly took on a terrifying, albeit distorted, reality. The witness continued, recounting overhearing hushed conversations between Diddy's team and other prominent figures about handling the situation and ensuring silence. They then spoke of seeing Tyler Perry in a heated, low-voiced conversation with Diddy in a secluded corner. "It looked like an argument," the witness said, "but also a negotiation. Mr. Perry looked desperate, pleading, and Mr. Combs looked dominant, almost threatening." The prosecution then displayed a previously unreleased security camera still from Diddy's property, dated March 15, 2006, at approximately 2:30 a.m. PST. The grainy image appeared to show Tyler Perry leaving the premises in a hurry, his head down, as if wanting to disappear. Monique, witnessing Tyler Perry's collapse, felt a strange mix of profound vindication and chilling sadness. She realized he, too, was a victim of a system that forced grim choices. This was no longer just about her feud with Perry. It was about something far larger, exposing the rot beneath Hollywood's glittering facade. She stared at Tyler Perry, trembling, both now bound by a dark, unraveling secret. The preliminary hearings against Sean Diddy Combs wrapped up on Friday, June 13, 2025 at 9:00 a.m. PST with a flood of new evidence. The prosecution brought in more witnesses and financial records, meticulously detailing an alleged empire of exploitation. Victims, their voices disguised, shared harrowing accounts of coercion, intimidation, and systematic abuse. Each testimony was a gut punch for Tyler Perry. He had witnessed similar situations and remained silent, a choice that now weighed heavily on him, threatening his carefully built image. Pale, with dried tears on his face, he felt like a coward who had compromised his morality for success. Public reaction was intense. Crowds gathered daily outside the courthouse, chanting justice for victims and lock him up. Fans, once loyal, now denounced Diddy, while social media exploded with outrage. Monique was among the onlookers, observing the anger and thirst for justice. This wasn't just her victory, it was a fight for all silenced voices. On Monday, June 16, 2025, at 1:00 p.m. PST, Judge Vance delivered her ruling. The courtroom was silent. Based on the compelling evidence presented, Judge Vance announced, this court finds sufficient probable cause to proceed with a grand jury indictment. A collective gasp and then a roar filled the gallery. Diddy's defiance crumbled into fear. His lawyer immediately moved for an appeal, but the judge's decision stood. Tyler Perry sat motionless, burdened by the truth and the knowledge his life would never be the same. The grand jury process unfolded swiftly. Finally, on Thursday, July 31, 2025, at 2:00 p.m. PST, the news broke. Sean Diddy Combs was formally indicted on multiple federal counts, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and illicit drug distribution. His trial was set for later that year. The Diddy saga was far from over. The upcoming trial promised to be explosive, potentially exposing a hidden world of power and corruption within Hollywood. Tyler Perry, though not charged, faced his own reckoning in the court of public opinion. His silence spoke volumes. Could he find redemption? And Monique, a symbol of resilience, knew. This was just the beginning. She would continue to fight for those silenced by the system, ensuring these secrets wouldn't be buried again. Truth, it seemed, always finds its light.